show the amazing complexity and beauty of nature, and I think he's succeeded.
Ah, I thought you'd be more disapproving.
The Victorians poured in to experience this underground labyrinth, the first cave in Britain to be lit with electric light. Before Gough turned them into a tourist attraction, the caves had been home to something else.
You can probably guess from the smell that we've now arrived at the Cheese Cave.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Hugh. I wondered if we had a problem. Now, the cheese is here. Is this a necessary part of its maturing process, or is this a kind of touristy thing?
No, this is really genuine. These are truckles of cheese, and are the only really genuine cheddar cheese in the entire world, because these cheeses are made from unpasteurized milk from cows on the Somerset Levels, very close to Cheddar. They're made by hand in the Cheddar Gorge Cheese Company in Cheddar, and they are stored here in Gough's Cave. And this is genuine cave-matured cheddar cheese.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. I can't wait to get my hands on some.
As more and more areas of the cave were opened up to cater for the tourists, some important archaeological discoveries were made.
And this is Cheddar Man, 9,000 years old, the oldest complete skeleton ever found in Britain.
That is a fantastic sight. This intact skeleton was found here, was it?
Yes.
When the skeleton was studied in detail, it revealed an extraordinary life and death.
Well, the story behind it, we believe, is that Cheddar Man, as a teenager, was hit on the head with an axe, which created a major wound in his forehead. That probably affected him for the rest of his life, but he died, we believe, in his early 20s. And we think that during that period, the effect of the blow to the head made him antisocial, dysfunctional, that sort of thing. So that when he died, the members of his tribe didn't deal with him in the normal way of burial, but put him in a twilight zone here so that his spirit couldn't depart to the ancestors and couldn't roam amongst the living either.
Recent research has produced more sinister revelations about the people who lived in these caves.
Hugh, I hear there's evidence of cannibalism that's been discovered in these caves.
Yes, that's true. The bones of 3 adults and 2 children with cut marks to drop the jaw out, to get at the tongue and to invert the skull, and cut marks on the long bones and the breaking of long bones is all evidence of cannibalism, and the bones are scattered across the cave floor and mixed with horse bones. So cannibalism did take place here, but long before Cheddar Man.
I'm pleased to see people have turned from cannibalism to cheese eating in this part of the world.
This is only recent.
Only recent.
The researchers also took DNA from Cheddar Man to see if they could find any of his descendants in Cheddar today. And guess what? They found a match.
Adrian.
Hello, good evening.
Let me get a good look at you.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Any resemblance to Cheddar Man?
Probably vaguely.
I can't see it exactly.
Come on in.
Thank you very much.
Local teacher Adrian Target was helping to organise the experiment when he was also roped into giving a sample.
So I was arranging to have my students' DNA tested, and some of them were a bit apprehensive. And so I said, oh, it'll be all right. I'll show you there's nothing involved. I'll have mine done as well. One of the things that they obviously wanted to know was how much like Cheddar Man I was. And so they did a reconstruction of Cheddar Man's head based on what they had from the skeleton.
Adrian, this is spooky. Such a strong resemblance. I mean, obviously you don't wear your hair the same way they did 9,000 years ago, but otherwise...
It's always other people who can see the resemblance, isn't it?
Almost as bizarre is Adrian's other secret.
Now, you know who this is, don't you?
Yes, it's a Bradshaw handbook, a Bradshaw guide.
And how do you know that?
Probably because I'm a railway nut, I suppose. A bit of an anorak. And I've collected mainly the timetables rather than the guides.
Adrian, that is to be a serious anorak to collect the timetables of trains that ran 150 years ago.
Yes, I suppose so.
Sherlock Holmes always had a Bradshaw, didn't he?
That's right, yes.
To the left of his fireplace, I believe.
Well, I do have some just here.
I suppose it was only a matter of time before I met another Bradshaw enthusiast. It wasn't long ago that they were an essential item for every trained traveller.
Must give you a lot of interesting bedtime reading, that. Thank you, that's lovely.
It's almost time to leave Cheddar, but there's one thing I need to try before I go.
Good evening. Oh, that looks serious. Are these all from Cheddar?
They are all from Cheddar.
This is the one from the caves.
It is indeed.
That's the one I have to try. Lovely big taste. Really mature and fresh and tangy. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Early next morning, I'm ready to pop along the coast to Weston-super-Mare.
Morning. Morning.
Thank you.
Running on time on a Sunday morning, that's very good.
Yeah, we try to.
The building of the Great Western Railway made it possible for there to be long-distance tourism, like railway workers from Swindon spending a week by the seaside in Devon. But it also led to the growth of day tripping and weekend visits, so that people from Bristol and Exeter could spend time by the sea in the Bristol Channel.
Weston-super-Mare, perhaps above all other seaside resorts, grew rapidly thanks to the railway. In 1822, it had a population of just 735. By the end of the century, it had shot up to over 20,000. Clearly, they weren't put off by what Bradshaw had to say.
Weston-super-Mare. My Bradshaw's guide is not entirely polite about Weston-super-Mare, so I'm intrigued to see what I'm going to find.
Bradshaw writes that the receding of the tide leaves a disfiguring bank of mud along the beach, which is a great drawback to the enjoyment of bathing.
It says about Weston-super-Mare, at low tide, Weston is disfigured by this bank of mud. What do you think of that?
I think it's right.
Do you think that is a bit disfiguring?
I mean, it's the stones and stuff.
Do you not like that so much?
It can look very dirty and polluted, but today it actually doesn't look that polluted, but sometimes, yeah, it does.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Are you visiting Weston-super-Mare or do you live here?
We live here.
You know, I'm following a very old guidebook, it's 150 years old. And he makes what I think is a rather catty comment. He says the best reason to stay a long time in Weston-super-Mare is because of the attractive places around it. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a bit unfair?
Yeah, the actual Weston-super-Mare Central's lovely.
I thought you'd say that, you see.
Yeah.
And the other thing he says is that he thinks the bank of mud that's left at low tide is disfiguring. Would you use that
No,
word?
it's a natural thing, surely.
Oh, it's a natural thing.
You can't have lovely Cornwall beaches everywhere, can you?
Yeah, and you're saying if it's a natural thing, then you shouldn't call it disfiguring.
No, of course not. It's part of Weston. Everybody knows that it's like that down here, but everybody still comes down here, don't they?
Wow, you really are loyal to your town.
At least Bradshaw is more positive about one local attraction, Burnbeck Pier. He says, "The bay sweeps a flat sandy beach to Whirl Hill, having beyond it the rock or island of Burnbeck, across which a new pier has been made with a landing stage for steamers." The pier was still bustling 50 years ago, but severe damage from storms in 1990 made it unsafe, and it was closed to the public in 1994. The only way to appreciate it is by water, so I've tagged along with the RNLI, who used to have a base on the pier. Nigel is one of 24 local volunteers.
You've got an RNLI slipway there. You use that sometimes?
We don't anymore. That's that got condemned a while back, just sort of fitting into disrepair really. So we now operate on the north side using a new method with tractors and trailers launching on a shingle beach.
Does it make you sad to see it in this dilapidated condition?
It does, yeah. It's quite an old pier, and I just about remember it from when I was a wee lad. And to see it like it is now is devastating, really.
But my visit to the pier is cut short by a real emergency.
You have to get the guys back on here. They want number 2.
Thank you.
Swansea Coast Guard from Western, lifeboat number 1.
there I
That's all
was,
received proceeding.
Out in lifeboat number 1, and a call came through. Luckily we had lifeboat number 2 alongside us, but they had been called to an emergency. Somebody is drifting in a raft. It's quite a long distance job, so they've got to take the bigger craft, and luckily we had the smaller boat alongside. Hello.
Hi, Michael. How are you? Welcome aboard number 2.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
With all that excitement, I'm glad to get my feet back on dry land.
That was great. Thank you very much indeed. Bye. Thank you.
This old pier may be very down on its luck today, but it was still a massive tourist attraction until the late 1950s. Pier archivist Dan Terrell remembers how popular it was and has traced its history back to Bradshaw's day.
Stan, why do you think the Victorians were so crazy about piers?
The very fact that they so enjoyed going on boats, but with a pier, you could be on a boat, as it were,